Yo, what is going on everyone, and welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. Usually I do some gaming content, but I've been on a little bit of a hiatus here recently, and I wanted to bring a new style of video to my channel, which is reading Reddit stories. So leave me some feedback down in the comment section down below. I appreciate everyone and any kind of feedback or criticism you can give me. Anyways, let's get into the very first episode of reading Reddit stories. So this first story is called "He Changed After We Slept Together," and that's when I knew I had to end it. And it is tagged as nonfiction, so this may or not be real. But anyways, let's get right into it. I was dating this guy last year, and in the beginning it felt like everything was falling into place. He was attentive, funny, and made me feel cared for. We went on thoughtful dates, he texted me good morning, and he really seemed to be putting in effort. After about a month, I felt comfortable enough to invite him over and spend the night. The next morning, though, his whole energy shifted. It's hard to describe, but it felt like he had crossed me in some finish line in his mind. He stopped being curious about me. Instead of asking about my day, he made comments like, "You really like being controlled, don't you? With your little apartment and your organized life." At first, I thought he was joking, but the tone was different, more smug than playful. Over the next few weeks, it became clear he didn't have any plans to date anymore. He just expected to come over. He acted less invested, like intimacy meant no longer he had to try. And sometimes he'd say things that felt intentionally diminishing, like he wanted to knock me down a peg. That was the moment it clicked. He hadn't been showing me his real self at all. He had been performing, waiting for me to get what he wanted, and once he did, the mask slipped. So I ended it, and honestly, I felt more relief than sadness. I realized how important it was to pay attention to not just how someone treats you before intimacy, but how they act after. That's when you see who they really are. I'm sharing this because I wish someone had told me sooner. If you feel that sudden shift, trust your gut. Love should feel safe and steady, not like someone conquered you. So yeah, I mean, obviously that situation, that story is really shitty, and people are really selfish, and it sucks to find yourself in that situation. In my opinion, you really should get to know people and, hold yourself back and actually see intention in people before, you fully let yourself go to that one person. But anyways, this is labeled as nonfiction. It might not be real. It could be real. I'm not saying it's not. However, real or not, this is a shitty situation. And yeah, let's get on to the next story. Alright, this next story is titled, "My Boss Thinks I'm Quitting Because I Bought a Cake to Work." Alright, so yesterday I decided to bake a cake for my coworkers. Nothing special, just a chocolate cake with ganache because I was in the mood to bake a cake and figured people at the office would enjoy it. This morning I bought it in, set it on the break room table, and sent a quick email. "Cake in the kitchen, help yourself." By lunch, almost everyone had come by to thank me, but they kept saying stuff like, "We'll really miss you," and "Where are you headed next?" Apparently there's an unwritten rule in our office that if someone brings in baked goods out of the blue, it's usually because they're leaving the company, and I had no idea. Now my manager wants to schedule a chat about my future here, and I'm panicking because I actually like my job and I'm not quitting. I'm wondering if I should just bake cookies tomorrow with the giant sticky note that says, "I'm not leaving, I just like sugar." So it's pretty obviously I know nothing about cake. That first little word, ganache, I don't even know what it is. I looked it up on Google. It's apparently some kind of frosting or something. But anyways, this is a really crappy situation at your job. And in my opinion, I do think you should bring some cookies because I would like a cookie. Make sure it's chocolate chip. Make sure they're warm. And we'll give you a raise the next time you come in. Alright, next story. Alright, story number 3 is titled, "I Found Out She Cheated and I Didn't Scream her bag. I ruined the one thing she cared about." I waited 3 days after I found the receipt. 3 days of pretending nothing was wrong, of sleeping on the couch and letting the house sound normal so I could feel normal. I watched her throughout those days the way you watch a stranger in a movie, desperate to know if they'll do the thing you already know they will. On the 4th day, she invited our friends over for a casual dinner to celebrate a work win. She was radiant, practicing the laugh she saved for the company, twirling a fork like nothing was waiting under the table. I showed up with a bottle of cheap wine and a smile that felt like I was made of glass. I let her host, I let her glow, I let everyone drink. When dessert came, I stood and smiled, and made a toast about honesty and how fragile trust is. I didn't shout, I didn't name names. I passed around a photo album I put together that morning. The pictures from the last 5 years, all the staged smiles and half-remembered vacations. Tucked between the pages were 2 receipts. a restaurant napkin with the same handwriting as her messages, and a screenshot I'd taken of the text thread she thought she had deleted. I let the room read like they were reading from a menu. I watched her face move from color to contrast in the kind of slow pour you only see in films. She left that night before anyone asked her a single question. Our friends stayed long enough to say things like, "I'm so sorry," and call me. I let them mean it. The next morning, I filed for separation and changed the passwords to the accounts we shared. I didn't post what happened on social media. I didn't send the screenshots to her family. I didn't need to. The album did more damage than any argument ever could. It took away the story she'd been telling about us and made everyone else read that the ending she's been hiding. It didn't feel good for long. Revenge never does. There was a moment a week later when I realized the apartment was too quiet and that my hands had nothing to do all night. That I traded one kind of loneliness for another. But I tell myself the point wasn't to make her hurt as much as I did. It was to make her see the mirror she had been avoiding. If she learns anything from it, maybe she'll stop breaking people the way she did me. If she doesn't, at least I walked away with the truth and my dignity folded into the bag I took when I left. So this post is tagged as fiction, so it is most likely a fake story, which we will take that at face value and say that, this is a shitty situation if it did happen in real life, and the best way to combat this is to just do what this person did, show the true colors of that evil person, and to move on with your own life and try and find happiness in someone or something else. Anyways, let's get on to the next and final story. So this story is kind of long, I think. It is more written into segments of people speaking. But anyways, this one is titled, "I babysat for $500 cash and I will never do it again. I almost didn't take the job. Something about the ad felt off. Looking for a responsible sitter, one night only, good pay, cash, must follow instructions." That was it. No details about the kid, no address, nothing about the hours, just a burner Gmail account to reply to. I was broke enough to overlook all that. My rent was due in 3 days and my fridge was down to half a jar of pickles and expired yogurt, so I sent a message figuring I wouldn't get a reply. I got one back in less than an hour. "Thank you for reaching out. The job was simple. Watch our son Matthew from 7 p.m. to midnight. $500 cash. Please do not let him look into mirrors. Please do not answer the door if someone knocks and claims to be us. Address attached." I stared at the screen, rereading the message. No mirrors, don't open the doors. Those weren't instructions, those were warnings. But again, $500? $500 for 5 hours of sitting on a couch while a kid sleeps? I couldn't ignore the creepiness for that. The house was out in the suburbs, tucked away at the end of a cul-de-sac with no streetlights. Every house on the street was dark except theirs, a faint yellow glow behind heavy curtains. The parents greeted me at the door. They looked normal, almost aggressively normal, like the kind of people you'd see in stock photos. Mom in a cardigan, dad in khakis, both smiling too wide. "We're so glad you can make it," the mom said, ushering me inside. "Matthew's upstairs already in his room." I nodded, clutching my backpack strap. Any allergies, bedtime routine? The dad cut me off. "The instructions in the email are the most important. Don't let him near mirrors. Don't answer the door." "Right," I said, trying to sound casual. Can I ask why?" The mom's smile faltered for half a second, but she recovered fast. "Just follow them. We will be back at midnight. $500 cash, like we promised." Before I could press further, they slipped out the door. The lock clicked. The house felt wrong once they left. Too quiet. Not the cozy suburban quiet where you could hear the hum of a fridge or the distant dog bark. There was sterile, like the sound of silence, like in an empty hospital wing. I wandered through the downstairs. Every reflective surface was either missing or covered. The bathroom mirror, gone. The TV screen draped with a sheet. Even the glass in the picture frames replaced with paper. The air pricked against my skin. I checked on the kid. Matthew was sitting cross-legged on his bed, staring at me when I opened the door. He looked about 8, blonde hair, pale skin, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. "Hi," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm your babysitter." He didn't answer, just blinked at me slowly, and then asked, "Do you know which ones are real?" And my stomach dropped. What do you mean?" "The people," he said. His voice was flat, like he was reciting something. "Sometimes they're not them. Sometimes they're copies." I laughed nervously. That's creepy. Where'd you hear that?" He tilted his head, bird-like, from the other Matthew. I swallowed. The other Matthew? He pointed towards the darkened window. He comes when the glass is open. I pulled the curtains shut tighter. The first knock came at 8:30. 3 slow raps on the front door. I froze on the couch, my phone in hand. The instructions screamed in my head. Don't answer the door. Another lock, louder this time. Hey! A man's voice called, muffled through the wood. It's us! We forgot something inside. The parents. My pulse thudded in my ears. It sounded like the dad, but flatter, like someone was replaying a recording through a bad speaker. I crept closer, careful not to touch the knob. We just need to come in for a second, the voice said. Behind me, I heard movement on the stairs. Matthew was standing halfway down, clutching the railing, staring at the doors with wide eyes. That's not them, he whispered. The knocking stopped. The hours dragged. Every time I thought the house was quiet again, something else happened. 9:15, I heard footsteps pacing the upstairs hallway, heavily, deliberate, except Matthew was sitting on the floor next to me, coloring with broken crayons. 9:47, the TV, even with the sheet over it, flickered life to static. I yanked the plug from the wall. It kept flickering for a full 10 seconds before finally going to black. 10:22, another knock. This time's the mom's voice. Please, he's dangerous. Let us in before it's too late. Matthew started crying, covering his ears. I did not open the door. At 11, I heard whispering. Not from the door this time, from upstairs. I crept up, leaving Matthew on the couch with my phone flashlight. The whispers grew louder as I reached his bedroom. The door was cracked open. Inside, the moonlight from the window illuminated a figure sitting on the bed. Matthew. Except I left him downstairs. This Matthew looked identical, but wrong. The way a wax figure almost looks real until you see its eyes. His lips moved, whispering to himself words I couldn't make out. And then he snapped his head towards me. I slammed the door shut and bolted down the stairs. The real Matthew was exactly where I left him. He looked up at me with tears streaking his face. You saw him, he said. I didn't answer. 11:40, the knocking came again. Both voices this time, the mom and the dad in perfect unison. Let us in. The door rattled like they were trying to break it down. Matthew was shaking, curled against me on the couch. Don't, he begged. If you let them in, they'll take you instead. The pounding grew violent, wood splintering. I dragged Matthew with me into the kitchen, searching for our back exit. That's when I noticed the one uncovered reflective surface left in the house, the oven door. And in it, I saw myself, except my reflection wasn't moving the same way I was. I staggered back, nearly dropping Matthew. The other me smiled, wide and wrong. Teeth too many for a human mouth. The reflection pressed its palm against the glass from the inside. A hairline crack snaked across the oven door. Midnight could not come fast enough. I huddled in the kitchen with Matthew, the pounding from the front door shaking the walls, the whispering upstairs turning into full-on giggles, and my reflection grinning from the oven, crack spiderwebbing wider every second. I thought it was going to break. Then the noise stopped, all at once. The clock on the microwave blinked, 12 a.m. The front door swung open, the parents walked in, smiling normal again. You did well, the mom said. She handed me an envelope of cash. My hands shook as I took it. What the hell is wrong with this house? With him. I pointed at Matthew who clung to my leg. The dad crouched down, prying the boy off my leg. He's not our son, he said. My mouth went dry. What? We lost Matthew years ago, the mom said, but things still come though. Things that look like him. Things that look like us. We can't get rid of them, only contain them. They each one looked at Matthew's hands. He didn't fight. He just looked back at me with hollow eyes. You did your job, the dad said. You kept him from escaping. That's all we needed. And before I could say a word, they led him upstairs. The door slammed shut behind them. I stumbled outside, clutching the envelope in the night air, biting my lungs. When I got home, I dumped the cash onto my kitchen table. Every bill was crisp, perfect, except when I flipped them over, the faces weren't of presidents. They were of me, smiling, too wide, with too many teeth. So obviously that story was fiction, however, it was written very good. It's a nice little horror story. It's not too scary. We don't even really know exactly more detail about everything that is scary, you know, like why is she in the oven smiling back at her? And like, what are these things exactly? But it was a fun little read anyways. And I hope you guys really liked the first episode of Reading Reddit Stories. Every story that I read will be in the description to give credit to the original posters. And anyways, let me know how you like this little series. Leave a comment, leave some likes, and I really hope you guys enjoyed. I'm not sure when the next episode will be, but it will come out, I promise. Anyways, I will see you guys next time.